and the person is not happy, it won't work well. And another thing is that when it comes to our education, I said, okay, the style I have is quite different from your own. Let me know how you want to do this particular program, then I run with you. Because at a time, initially, it was like maybe we were imposing our own will on her. Because I'm a lawyer, she started studying law. At a time, she said, no. My friend talked to her, everybody talked to her. She said, okay, she will read the law. But on a second thought, she wasn't doing well. So when we knew that she wasn't doing well, I said, Dolapo, let's do change of course. She collected the change the form, but it was along that line that the issue of bipolar actually came up. Then we had to change everything because the lecturers in school, the sub-dean, everybody became around. They had to invite me that, is this your daughter? When I met the sub-dean, who happened to be my lecturer at the time, I said, Madam, she's my daughter. But these and these and these are what we are going through. That she's already taking treatment in an hospital. However, we can defer the program. And as at the time that defining the program was not working, I said, here, you can change this program entirely. Then she changed from law to study psychology. And above all, everything she likes doing, I encourage her. I will be part of it. This is Dr. Victor Ugo. When she came up that there is one health group, Mani, I said, oh, go ahead. When are you going for the meeting? She will tell me, I suppose I'll go. Even there was a particular function they had. My friend went with her. So that everybody, the family system, my friends, they were part of the support system that actually helped us out. So, in a nutshell, I will advise parents, know your child. Study that child. Whenever you observe changes from the normal one, please probe to the bottom. And when it is coming out, the one that you cannot handle, seek help. Look for counselor. There are many things we can study online. There was a day I was down when I was in Abuja. I just Googled one number. I called the person. Myself, I called the person. It was only this time that suicide became rampant in Lagos. People jumping into the lagoon, what have you. I called that guy. I said, look, I'm not feeling fine. I said, not that I'm sick, but I'm having some tough moments. He discussed with me. I was able to share with him because I don't know him, he doesn't know me, so I could discuss objectively the way it was with that guy. Because at times we may be shy or afraid that this person will know my. So it's better you look for independent people who are particularly in that area. They will be able to give you absolute, correct information and help that you desire. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barrister. You have stressed on some very key areas, being sensitive to the need of your children and seeking help in the right places. That the first place to go to is not a church or to the mosque, but to get professional help and to seek help in the right places. Thank you very much for that, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got some questions from the audience at this stage, or maybe just while we get the questions together, maybe I can just ask Dr. Ugo. You've been very involved in the program, you've been very involved in the mental health initiative going forward, but you're also someone that's got personal experience of this. Maybe you could share that with us?
Thank you very much. My story is one that shocks me myself. When I look back to my time in medical school, I was one of the best in psychiatry. I really loved psychiatry at the time. But about a year later when I was diagnosed, it was funny to me that I didn't recognize the symptoms in myself.
It's very important.
And that's one very important thing to note, that when you have people that cope with mental illnesses, what the illness does to you is that you don't believe that something is wrong with you. you know something is wrong with you, but you don't want to accept it. So it's difficult for you to accept that something is wrong with you. So it took the help of my friends, who were also doctors, to be able to recognize that illness. And that to me was a turning point, because when I noticed that I couldn't find out in myself, with my expertise as a doctor, that I was ill and needed the help of my friends, I needed to build a community of young people who are going to be educated enough to recognize these symptoms in themselves. There's one issue that we don't understand. Young people don't like talking to old people. Yeah, because you guys are very judgmental. Very, very judgmental. So when a young person wants to talk to someone that they think that can understand them, they talk to a fellow young person. And that is why we are very, very relevant in this community, and that's why this organization was founded. In our experience so far, we've been able to affect hundreds of thousands of Nigerians in the first place. And we talk about the impact of social media on mental health, on mental illness of young people. So being on the social media space, while we have a lot of influence, we have a lot of followers, we have a lot of educational sessions that we conduct, we've been able to impact on various young people. We've been able to induct them into our group. We have more than 1,000 members. I mean, these are key people that are actually very trained in mental health and who are actually reaching out to other young people. We have over 20,000 followers on Instagram and Facebook, where these young people usually go to. So it's better to take the fight to where the problem is. Like we were saying, the social media is a problem. Let's take the fight to social media, and that's where we have the communication and we have the conversation with them. So over time, in my experience, I've discovered that instead of having to write suicide notes like we see, then like I wrote a lot of suicide notes when I was smaller. I didn't know. I think, like we said, the risk factors actually start from when you're small, and then you can develop the illness later. These days, people don't write suicide notes on paper anymore. They write it on social media. So, like spotters that we are on social media, what we do is that we have various young people who look out for these notes in people's profiles, and they report these notes to us. So when they do that, when they say at Mental Health NG, please check out this person's profile, and we go and we send messages and we say we can actually talk to you and we can help. And that has, in so many ways, I can tell you, in the last 1 year, we've been able to speak to and intervene in over 5,000 suicide cases or calls from young people, not old people, from very young people. So this has been what has shaped my experience, from my personal experience as a doctor and as someone that is coping with mental illness, depression, to be exact. I have been able to recognize that young people need to talk to people, and they need to talk to young people, and that's why we exist as a community.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Ugo.
Okay. Sorry to cut in. What I'm going to do moving ahead is first of all, a round of applause to our panelists. So sorry. The reason I'm coming in now is there's an avalanche of questions, and all very valid. So what we've done is we've tried to compartmentalize the questions into areas that generally talk on the same issue. Secondly, because of time and the ability to get to as many questions, to the panelists, we want you to literally hit home. Would really appreciate you can just hit home in like a minute or two, if possible, so we can touch on many other issues. There is a setup outside where we're going to have a breakout session to interact with a lot of the speakers, so you get to maybe meet them one-on-one and be a bit more elaborate with your questions. But for the sake of the audience here, a number of people have things to do this morning. We want to touch on as many issues as possible. So I'll handle some questions. And of course, we have Mr. Derek will handle some, and Dr. Alex will handle some. So I'll kick off with Mr. Smith.
Okay, I've got one here, which I think maybe to Dr. Coker, it's very, very important based on, Dr. Kadiri, based on what you said. In the case of mental illness with a child, where you've already mentioned that the presence of the father and relationship with the father has shown to be very important. And what if the father is not available?
Yeah, of course, you already know the father is not available, but that was what the research has produced. 30 years study, and of course, they found out that closeness to a parent, and then the parent is for the father. But if the father is not available, do you have a father figure? So we need to understand that the fact that the father is not available, maybe divorce or death or separation or something, you also have to develop a father figure for your child. So don't sit and say, okay, I'm the father, I'm the mother. There's a role the man and the woman play in the well-being of the child. So develop and have the father figure.
Okay, thank you very much for that, ma. Okay, this question is to Dr. Ibigbami, and it's on the issue of stigma. Stigma is a big issue in our society, as far as, not just in this society, the world over, as far as mental illness is concerned. Okay, the question here is about stigma. How do you address, like if you're an outsider looking in and you can see this family, this child, there's something wrong, but the parents are in denial. How do you approach that? And I think we should just use the opportunity to talk generally on the issue of stigma. How does it affect health-seeking behavior in the country? And then what should we do as parents? If you're an insider suffering from this, how do you do it? How do you, and then you are the outsider, the neighbor watching in, what should your stance be?
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Alex. In my own experience, I think the greatest challenge we have that reinforces stigma in Nigeria has to do with, we have a problem with communication. We don't know the right words to use when it comes to talking about mental illness. For instance, in the southwestern part of Nigeria, the Yoruba culture, to even mention some specific forms of mental illness, the words that we use are stigmatizing on their own. For instance, you see a child that has intellectual disability. What do we call it in Yoruba land? It's a descriptive term that is derogatory in nature. So virtually anyone you want to use that word for, the person would want to disagree with you. So stigma, because of the problem with communication, builds individuals to want to deny the existence of such disorders in their children. Of course, we all know that if there is stigma, it creates what we call social distance. Individuals will not want to be close to persons that have such a challenge. So it brings us to the fact that what do we do in order to be able to reduce this stigma? I think what we're doing here today is one of the ways to go about it. Get people to talk about it and keep talking about it till we get everybody on board to find the right words to use. I'm not a linguistic person, so probably if I want to use the words that we use from the textbooks, those words might not properly be acceptable to a lot of people. So we need people who have studied language to help us to be able to describe some of this phenomenon in such a way that people will be able to accept it. And of course, we educate ourselves about it. Now to the question of what do we do? I see the whole world as a field in which all of us need to be ready to go all out to do what we should. Whether you're in the church, you're in school, you need to be ready to identify someone that has a mental illness and be able to communicate to the person about it. For instance, I had an experience recently. A set of twins were found out in church to have suddenly become over-religious. They just became exceedingly religious, but they found out that their level of religiosity seemed to be out of tandem with what was expected for people within that church. They started going all out to preach at odd hours. They would come together, hold their hands to pray. They're about 17 years old. They hold their hands to pray in front of the house so that other people will see them. Then they started talking about their parents, that the parents were not religious enough, and so they started refusing food. They started saying, this is a sin, we will not take part in it within the family. Then the pastor was the one that actually now called me. The pastor of the church now called me to fix a session with the family. Now, it brings us to one fact, that medication, I always tell people, giving medication to a child or a young person should be like the 5th or the 6th response to mental illness. Don't ever start up with the mind that the medication is what is going to solve the problem. In fact, medications, what they do is support what you are doing without medication. And that brings us to the fact that let us continue to educate people that the role of the family, the support that we have from significant others that are close to us in the school, in the church, in the mosque, are much more important than the medication that the doctor would give to the patient. And which, by the time we keep telling people about this, it will reduce stigma, because they will know that
even beyond the fact that this is an illness that needs medication, there are other things that are missing within the society, that these are the factors that actually reinforce the illness within the individual that has the illness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And that leads me to one of the key questions I hear from someone in the audience. And maybe, Dr. Ugo, if I can ask you, all the parents, people here, they really want to know more, and it's great that they've come here and we've been able to share a little bit. But is there anywhere that parents can get education, training on mental illness so that they can help and those that they know their children and learn some more? So maybe with your experience you could share some of the places people can go.
Okay, yeah. The thing is, it's something that we found that is very important. Psychoeducation. We need to educate not just the young people. We need to educate the parents. We need to educate the teachers. You know, everybody has to be involved. Like they say, it's a community, and you need community support to make sure that people actually get mentally aware. So what we are trying to do in our own part is that we are trying to create, or we've created programs in partnership with international organizations like Team Mental Health and Jack.org in Canada. So we are creating particular curriculums that can teach parents, and that can teach teachers, and that can teach the students on how to recognize and handle mental illnesses. And like I say, I usually tell people there's a difference between mental illness and mental health problems and mental health stress. You know, so you have to make the distinction between the stressors and recognize the stressors before they become a problem and before they result in a disorder, which is like the last, phase of it all. So we want to create those programs such a way that both parents will have their own curriculum that they can easily get to understand and learn how to become active and engaged parents, which is actually really, really important in terms of how to recognize the symptoms in your children. And we have to also make sure we have a program for teachers as well, to be able to learn how to notice the symptoms in their students and know who to report it to, and then the students themselves to be comfortable enough to know that their teacher knows what they're doing when it comes to how to handle these disorders, and their parents are also knowledgeable enough to deal with these issues. So it just comes down to, like I said, psychoeducation, which is a very important aspect that we are dealing with. And in the next few months, we're going to roll out different programs, and we're going to be going from school to school to make sure we affect them for free to these people.
Okay, thank you very much. This next set of questions borders on the issue of privacy, so I'll just read them out quickly. There are about 3 of them. The first one here is, at what age do you think a child should have his or her privacy? Another one here is, how do you help a teenager who has been sexually abused several times by her immediate elder brother because they are the only 2 indoor after school till their parents resume back from work? I'm a busy mother, top executive management. As a busy mother, top executive manager, how would you still manage to show adequate parental care to her children? What if resignation from the current... Okay, I can't read this part, but I'm thinking resignation from the current or paid employment is an option. That's number 2. Does being an only child affect the child's mental health? So those are the 3 major questions. I think it has to deal with being alone, loneliness, privacy. So I don't know who wants to address which question. Carry on. So which one would you like to address?
I'd like to address the woman who is a busy executive and the child is having difficulty. And
immediate elder brother.
Yes, and the child is being... Now, one of the things, I've ticked many boxes in my life. I've been married, divorced, remarried, buried almost every relative you can think of. I buried my father, buried my siblings, and I ticked one box that I wished I never ticked. I buried my 22-year-old son 2.5 years ago. If your child, as someone that was in the corporate world at very high levels, leaving the banking industry as an executive director in this very intense environment of Nigeria, I can relate with the tensions that come with working in such a hectic environment. But one of the things that helped me when Femi died was that I knew that he knew all his life that every job I did was subordinate to the importance that he had and all my children have in my life. We must remember that the most important job that we are doing is being a parent. And I don't care how, we tend to think we need a lot of money, but you really don't need as much money as you think you need. Because when you invest in your child to the point where that child knows with confidence that they are truly loved, I mean, if a sibling is abusing another sibling, already that tells me there's some underlying environmental issues in that home. You need to take stock honestly within yourself. Ask yourself, is my husband abusive? Am I abusive? Do I have a mental health issue that I'm hiding? Am I depressed? Do I hide behind work? You first need to call someone really quickly. I would ask you to call a psychologist. We have a clinical psychologist in our office, Dr. Audrey. We call her Awesome Audrey. She does a great job with parents who are having issues at home. The child also needs a clinical psychologist, the one that is being abused. The child that is the abuser also needs help. This is a circle of help, not judgment. Someone said earlier on that we judge too quickly. We, the oldies, we tend to judge too quickly. Please stop judging. Yes, the boy is doing something wrong, or now that's my own mental paradigm coming out, presuming that it's a boy that's abusing, but that's not necessarily probably the case. The child, whatever gender the child is that is doing the abuse, has been exposed to some things. Somebody has written something in that child's mind that says it's okay. It's not just because they're indoors together alone. I mean, it doesn't mean you pounce on your sister or your sibling. Next thing, get help. Get help now. The job that you are doing is not as important as the life of your child. Sorry, but I kept it real.
Okay, thank you very much, ma. Okay, this question is to Barrister Ogedengbe. We want to know, when you found out those notes on your child's social media page, how did you handle it? And in answering that, you give us some guides, because obviously you have moved through, you are coping, you are here today, and she is here too. So just share with us, how did you cope, and how are you coping?
Thank you, Dr. Alex. Really, when I found out all those things written, I called Jan. What exactly are you passing through? As your mother or father, are we so hard on you? Like, I want to start from this angle to buttress Madam's own. I had to resign from a banking industry when she was like, because I will leave home in the morning just to wake her up, drop her in school. By the time we are back from work, she's already asleep. Then at a time, because all my children are wrapped up in that one beautiful girl. So myself, I was having tension. I was stressed, looking for more children. And it was like, is it because I'm working too hard from internal control to financial control? It became so difficult. We meet deadlines, reporting this and that. My husband did not complain directly, but he used some tactics to send out his annoyance over that job. By the time I'm home, he was already asleep. I will tap, nothing. 2 months, 3 months, no show. Then nobody asked me to drop the job. I just had to resign, and I said yes, I will go into private practice. As at that time, I was already a qualified accountant. I said I can practice. So the first time I set up my audit firm, and I started the practice. As I was practicing, along the line, I became so free, because I'm used to waking up early in the morning, go to work, come back late, and on like that. Sometimes I go to work Saturdays and Sundays. If you have to do CBN report, monthly report, mid-month report, quarterly report, and all reports. Sometimes we sleep in the office. So when I now left, I had so much time with me. That was what made me to go and start law, to fill my time reasonably, because they said an idle mind is the devil's workshop. It was that time I started noticing the depression in me, because I was not happy as such. I wasn't that lively person. So I said, no, I don't want to resort to this type of lifestyle. I enrolled for my own love. Now, having done that, I became occupied. So when I noticed that she was writing things about sadness, about hopelessness, about helplessness, I could feel that I've once gone through that phase of life. What could make somebody to be hopeless? What could make you to be helpless and not happy? So what are those things that you want to achieve as a child that you are not achieving? Then she said me, it's like maybe you and daddy are actually saying, if you are not a lawyer or if you are not working on this way, we may not support you if problem come later in life. I said, that's not it. So that really, if you have a job that you can set up on your own and practice, either a medical doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, you don't need to go through paid employment. It's because we have gone through that route, that's why we are telling you all this. But it's like it fell on deaf ears. And I have noticed that when she was in secondary school, she was a science student, saying that she wants to become a medical doctor. But one day, she just called me from school, Mom, you know what? I've changed from science class to art or something. I said, wow, what happened? She said, I think that I can still help people by me and not only being a medical doctor that can make me to help people. I said, go ahead. So when she came back home, I ensured that the photocopy of notes, I made it seamless for her. When I now observe that aspect of sadness, helplessness, hopelessness, I became worried. Dolako, please, tell me what the problems are. She was able to tell me some I had to call some support system, some of my friends that she likes, please talk to her. Some that she could not tell me directly, she was able to confide in my friends, and it was from there I knew that yes, we need to get the assistance of medical personnel. Then we went to see the psychiatrist.
Thank you for that, man.
Thank you. I've got a question here which I think is probably a very appropriate question for the event itself. And maybe I'll speak a little bit about it before I pass it to the panel. It says, as parents, how can we address the fear of leaving our children in boarding schools with all the current vices, bearing in mind the impact of day-to-day parental influence? As the principal of a boarding school, I think that's quite an important question for me. And the very start of the question is, I think, a mentality that needs to be changed if you are going to bring your child to a boarding school. It says, as parents, how can we address the fear of leaving our children in boarding schools? When anybody comes to any of the schools that I've been involved in, and particularly our current school, you do not leave your children at a boarding school. You enter into a partnership with a boarding school. The key thing here, and everybody needs to understand this, is boarding schools now are not like boarding schools were 20, 30 years ago, where you dropped them at the gate on resumption, the gate closed, and you didn't see them again for 13 weeks here, and you didn't want to be involved. I'm, as you know, president of the Association of International Schools. As schools, we see our job as working with parents to help children to develop all round, not just academically, but in all their other involvements in sport, in developing their character. And in order for that to happen, we need parents to be honest with us and to support us. And that starts from the moment you apply. All boarding schools now, before you apply, will ask you if there is anything that we should know that we will need to be dealing with. Over the years, I've had different responses to that, and in honesty, the response that you get to that question impacts on how successfully we can work to develop the children that you bring to share their care with us. I had a case a number of years ago in my current school where one of the boys, he was in year 7 at the time, was having quite difficulty settling in. And so we talked with the parents. The mother came to see me. Interestingly enough, at the start of this conversation, the mother came to see me without the father, because the father refused to accept that there was anything wrong with the boy. So the mother came to speak with me. And over the course of 3 or 4 years, we worked together. The boy visited psychologists here in Nigeria. The boy also visited psychologists in the UK. The father came on board. All the reports were shared with the school. All the discussions are part of the school. Every visiting day, the family would come and sit. We would talk. We would work with how the teachers could develop and support the child so they could support the boy developing. And that works very successfully when we work together as parents and a boarding school. I have had other cases that are not that successful. When parents bring their child to the school knowing that there are underlying issues, refusing to tell the school that there are underlying issues, and when we call to have a discussion, something is happening, deciding that it must be something the school has done and it's not anything to do with them. And in those cases, I've had only probably 1 or 2 cases. In those cases, most often as a school, we will advise you that a boarding school is not the place for your child if you're not prepared to enter into that partnership. And unfortunately, at times I've had to ask the parents to take the child elsewhere because it begins to impact on the whole school. So that's my experience. I don't know if any of the panelists have anything to add.
Okay, I think that's... I would quickly just add on to that. I am a parent. I have 2 girls that are 5, and my experience is actually more recent, and this is for a 5-year-old. So I'm wondering what parents who have teenagers are going through. A simple assignment, 8 plus 8 is what? So I go through my kids' assignments. That's the first one. There are 2, so the first one I went through it, and I asked her, and she puts 3. Long and short, unknown to me, the instruction that had been given from the school was to take the last digit of the number and put it there. So 8 and 8 is 16, so put 6, then carry 10. So she was frustrated trying to explain this to me. So I was like, it's 16. She was like, no, Daddy, that's not what Mrs. ... said. And and she started crying. So I said, okay, calm down. I'll come to your school tomorrow and I'll see your teacher. And then she calmed down. I saw the teacher, she explained it. Then I called her back in the presence of the teacher to make her understand that I now understand what she was saying. As little as that incident was, it scared me. Because if I had lost the opportunity or misplaced that opportunity to connect with her, every other thing from then on will be a secret to me. And this is a 5-year-old. She's just 5. So the stress and the importance on the partnership between parents and teachers and the school is so crucial. We're under a lot of stress. The economy is this, blah, blah, blah. But nobody will forgive you as a parent if 10, 15 years down the line, you didn't do everything you could have done as a parent. So I just wanted to buttress that point, that it's about the partnership. It's very important. And that leads me to my next question. This is Africa. This is Nigeria. So when I saw this question, I wasn't surprised, but I wanted to touch on it very quickly. Can mental illness be attached to spirituality? How can mental illness be treated spiritually? I would love to answer this question, but I'll leave it to the professionals.
Okay, maybe before you answer that, before we tackle that, maybe let me just add to it. Is there a cure for mental illness? Can it be treated? Yes, that's the addition to the question.
I want to talk. Hello, there is a cure. It can be treated.
Spiritually or non-spiritually?
Both ways. Because whatever you are doing, God factor is very, very important. But medically, it can be cured. When I had my depression in 2003, 2004, I was on a daily drug for like 3-6 months on daily basis. I was taking injection weekly. I was taking it like that for like 3-4 years consistently. But at a time, I talked to myself. I had to call myself that, do I need this drug every day? At times it's a personal thing too. Because as I moved up, I look at the things that were actually giving me that stress. The triggers to the depressions, when you identify them, you'll be able to deal with them either personally, medically, spiritually. So when I identified those things, they were giving me the triggers that leads to depression. One after the other, I knew how to solve them. So I reduced some things, my lifestyle, I tried to change some things. So medically you can solve it, personally with determination it can be solved, and above all, God factor is very, very important.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, Dr. Bigbami, let's hear your thoughts, please.
I get asked this question over and over again. Yes, I get asked this same question over and over again, and I try to explain what medical practice is. Every form of treatment that we give in medicine has been proven by what we call a controlled trial. What it means is, if we have 100 people here and this treatment is said to work for a particular illness, if we give that treatment to 100 people, how many of them will get well? So the treatment that we prescribe to individuals have actually passed through that trial, and that is what determines how much trust I as a doctor can have in that prescription that I'm giving to my patients. And I always tell people that are proponents of spiritual healing that any form of treatment that medicine will prescribe has to pass through that test. If you believe strongly that spiritual healing will work, let us put it through a trial. You shouldn't shy away from the trial. Let us determine how many people we can give that same prescription, maybe 2 hours of prayer for that same illness, and determine how much improvement they will have based on our treatment. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't believe in God. It just means that I'm being truthful with myself, and I'm being honest with regards to what I'm telling my patients. Now,